The grand processor Infinity Pi of the Geometric Empire stood aboard the bridge of the perfect angle, its crystalline form refracting light in precisely calculated patterns. The ship, like all vessels in the Empire's fleet, was a perfect dodecahedron, the most mathematically elegant shape for space travel, according to their calculations. Anomaly detected, announced subprocessor Theta 9. Approaching vessel defies all known geometric principles. Through the view screen, a human ship appeared, the earthen vessel Wildcard. Its asymmetrical design, with seemingly random protrusions and curved surfaces, caused several junior processors to experience mathematical distress. Captain Olivia Harrison of the Wildcard observed the alien vessel with barely contained amusement. "Is that a floating geometric shape?" she asked her first officer, Commander David Patel. "According to scans, it's a perfect dodecahedron," Patel replied, fighting back a grin. Even their energy signatures form fractals. The communication channel crackled to life. "Greetings, irregular vessel." Grand processor Infinity Pi's harmonically optimized voice resonated through the bridge. "Your ship's design violates 67 fundamental principles of spatial efficiency. Please explain this mathematical heresy." Harrison exchanged glances with her bridge crew before responding. "Well, you see, we found that sometimes the least efficient way is the most effective. Would you believe our irregular hull design actually helps us navigate asteroid fields better?" A sound like shattering crystal echoed through the channel. Several junior processors had fainted from the illogic. "Impossible," Infinity Pi declared. "Our calculations prove that perfect geometric forms are optimal for all scenarios. Care to put that to the test?" Harrison's eyes twinkled. "We could run a friendly competition, your perfect ship versus our mathematical heresy, through that nearby asteroid field." The Geometric Empire's ship hummed as its processors calculated probabilities. "Your proposal is intriguing, though our victory is statistically assured with 99.99998% certainty. Tell you what," Harrison offered. "If you win, we'll redesign our ships according to your geometric principles. But if we win, you have to try doing something without calculating it first." The stakes sent shockwaves through the Geometric Empire's crew. The mere concept of unplanned action was nearly incomprehensible. Yet, the challenge to their mathematical supremacy couldn't go unanswered. "We accept these terms," Infinity P announced. "Prepare for demonstration of geometric perfection." What followed was perhaps the most unusual race in galactic history. The perfect angle moved with mathematical precision, its course plotted through the asteroid field with elegant equations. Meanwhile, the Wildcard seemed to dance through space, its movements unpredictable yet graceful, like a leaf in the wind. As they approached the finish line, a rogue asteroid, one that hadn't appeared in the Geometric Empire's calculations, forced the perfect angle to halt its carefully plotted course. The Wildcard, however, simply spun around it with a flourish that defied several laws of physics, crossing the finish line first. "Impossible," Infinity Pi's voice wavered. "Our calculations, they were perfect." "That's the thing about the universe," Harrison replied kindly. "It's not always about being perfect. Sometimes it's about being adaptable." The bridge of the perfect angle fell silent as its crew processed this radical concept. Finally, Infinity Pi spoke again, its voice carrying a new harmonic undertone that might have been curiosity. "Perhaps there are equations we have yet to discover. Would you be willing to teach us this adaptability?" Harrison smiled. "Only if you're willing to teach us some of that mathematical precision of yours. I have a feeling both our peoples could learn a lot from each other." And so began an unlikely partnership between the most orderly civilization in the galaxy and humanity's cheerful chaos, a partnership that would reshape both their societies in ways no equation could have predicted. The observation deck of the perfect angle had been redesigned, or rather, made slightly imperfect, to accommodate human visitors. Commander David Patel noticed that one wall was exactly 0.3 degrees off from the others, a concession that had probably caused the Geometric Empire's architects physical pain. "You're saying you've never just danced?" Patil asked subprocessor Theta 9, who had become his regular companion during these cultural exchange sessions. "Physical movement without mathematical purpose is..." Theta 9's crystalline surface flickered with uncertainty. "Inefficient." "Efficiency isn't everything." Patil grinned, pulling out his personal music device. "Sometimes you move just because it feels good. Here, Let me show you. As Earth music filled the chamber, several junior processors retreated in geometric horror at the irregular rhythms. But Theta 9 remained, its crystalline form vibrating slightly with the beat. Meanwhile, in the ship's computational center, Captain Harrison was engaged in an equally challenging cultural exchange with Grand Processor Infinity Pi. But why would your species intentionally consume non-optimal nutrition combinations? Infinity P asked, reviewing data about human cuisine. These desserts provide no mathematical benefit to your biological processes. Harrison unwrapped a chocolate bar, the mere sight of which caused several nearby processors to recalculate their understanding of human behavior. Because it's delicious, she said, breaking off a piece. Would you like to try some? We do not consume organic matter, Infinity Pi reminded her. Though perhaps we could analyze its molecular structure. That's not quite the same thing, Harrison laughed. You know, not everything needs to be analyzed. Sometimes experiences are valuable just because they bring joy. Joy, Infinity Pi repeated, testing the word. An emotional response without quantifiable parameters. Most unsettling. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from the wildcard. Captain. Lieutenant Jessica Wong's voice crackled through the channel. We're detecting unusual energy signatures from the nearby star. It's doing something our scientists say should be mathematically impossible. The Geometric Empire's processors immediately began calculating, their crystalline forms glowing with intense activity. Confirmed, Infinity P announced. The star's behavior violates 23 fundamental laws of stellar physics. Harrison and Infinity Pi arrived at the observation deck, just as Paddle was teaching Theta 9 the basics of the robot dance. An irony not lost on anyone present. The view through the window stopped them all short. The star was pulsing in patterns that seemed to defy both human science and geometric calculation. Fascinating, Theta 9 commented, still swaying slightly to the lingering music. The star appears to be improvising. That's not possible, Infinity Pi stated, though with less certainty than usual. Stars must follow mathematical laws. Must they? Harrison mused, watching the extraordinary display. We've already proven that the most rigid calculations don't always predict reality. Maybe the universe itself enjoys a little dance now and then. The star's erratic behavior was drawing ships from both civilizations. Human scientists worked alongside Geometric Empire processors, each bringing their unique perspectives to the puzzle. The humans' intuitive leaps complemented the processor's precise calculations, leading to discoveries neither side could have made alone. Perhaps, Infinity Pi said finally, its voice carrying a new harmonic that might have been wonder, the universe is more complex than even our most perfect equations suggest. Or simpler, Harrison suggested, watching Patel attempt to teach a group of junior processors the wave. Maybe sometimes it just wants to have fun. As the star continued its impossible dance, the two civilizations found themselves drawn closer together, each beginning to see the value in the other's perspective. The Geometric Empire's processors were learning that not every pattern needed to be perfect to be beautiful, while the humans were discovering that a little mathematical precision could enhance even their most spontaneous endeavors. You know, Theta 9 said to Patel as they watched the star's performance, I believe I am experiencing what you would call enjoyment, though I cannot calculate its exact parameters. That, Paddle replied with a smile, is exactly the point. The anomaly appeared during a joint cultural exhibition where human dancers were attempting to teach geometric patterns to the processors, while processors were trying to calculate the perfect rhythm for human music. The space-time distortion manifested as a swirling vortex that, according to the Geometric Empire's calculations, shouldn't have existed. It's beautiful, Lieutenant Jessica Wong breathed, watching the spiral of impossible colors through the perfect angle's observation window. Like a cosmic ballet. Beautiful. Theta 9's crystalline surface pulsed with confusion. It's a catastrophic breakdown of spatial mathematics. Our models indicate it will consume this entire sector in approximately 47.3 hours. Commander Patel, who had been examining sensor readings with a group of junior processors, looked up with concern. Can't your equation solve this? You've got the most advanced mathematical models in the galaxy. Grand Processor Infinity Pi's voice carried an unusual harmonic of frustration. Our calculations are insufficient. The anomaly appears to operate on principles that defy mathematical logic. "Well then," Captain Harrison said, entering the chamber with a familiar glint in her eye, "it's a good thing you've got some experts in defying mathematical logic on hand." The next several hours saw the wildest brainstorming session in either civilization's history. The Perfect Angles Computational Center had been transformed into what Harrison called a think tank, much to the geometric horror of several elder processors who insisted that thoughts should be arranged in proper mathematical arrays. What if, Wong suggested, drawing irregular diagrams that made the junior processors dizzy, we treat it like a dance partner instead of a problem to solve? Dance, with a space-time anomaly. Infinity Pi's tone suggested they were all one step away from mathematical insanity. Think about it. Patel jumped in, warming to Wong's idea. When we first met, you couldn't understand why our ships moved the way they did. But those irregular patterns turned out to be perfect for certain situations. What if this anomaly is similar? Theta 9, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly lit up with inspiration. Like the star that danced, we attempted to predict its behavior using pure mathematics. But it only made sense when we stopped trying to force it into perfect patterns. Harrison finished. Infinity Pi. What if we combined your precise calculations with our ability to improvise? The grand processor's surface shimmered with rapid computations. Such a merger would be unprecedented. Our equations are perfect. And that's exactly why they're not working. Harrison pressed. This anomaly doesn't follow perfect rules. But what if we could create a sort of mathematical jazz? The phrase mathematical jazz caused several junior processors to crash and reboot, but Infinity Pi was intrigued. Over the next hours, humans and processors worked together to create something entirely new. A hybrid approach that combined precise geometric calculations with intuitive leaps and creative variations. They programmed the perfect angles energy arrays to emit patterns that were mathematically sound, but included elements of controlled chaos. The human ships, led by the wild card, would move in formations that looked random but followed deep mathematical principles that even they didn't fully understand. Ready to dance? Harrison asked, as their small fleet faced the growing anomaly. This plan violates 69 different laws of geometric combat doctrine, Infinity P noted. Then, with what might have been a touch of humor, added, "How refreshing." What followed was perhaps the most bizarre space ballet ever performed. The geometric ships moved in patterns that were almost, but not quite, perfect. The human vessels wove between them in moves that looked chaotic, but followed a strange underlying order. Together, they created a dance of physics and intuition, of precision and imagination. The anomaly, as if recognizing a kindred spirit in this blend of order and chaos, began to respond. Its wild spirals took on a more rhythmic quality, its destructive energy gradually transforming into something else entirely. "It's working," Wong exclaimed, watching as the reading shifted. "The anomaly is harmonizing with us." "Impossible," Theta 9 said, but this time the word carried a tone of delight rather than dismissal. "We have created an entirely new form of spatial mathematics, one that embraces both precision and possibility." As the anomaly's dangerous energy dissipated, transformed by their unprecedented collaboration, both humans and processors found themselves changed as well. They had discovered that the greatest solutions often lay not in perfect calculation or pure intuition, but in the beautiful dance between the two. "You know," Harrison said to Infinity P as they watched their ships complete their cosmic ballet, "I think we might have just invented a whole new kind of science." "Indeed," the grand processor replied, its crystalline surface displaying patterns that were precisely imperfect. "Though I believe your humans might call it art." 6 months after the anomaly incident, the Geometric Empire's capital space station had undergone some startling renovations. Amid the perfect geometric shapes, one could now find curving corridors, asymmetrical viewing ports, and, most shocking of all, a human-style dance club. "I still can't believe you convinced them to build this," Commander Patel said to Lieutenant Wong as they entered the club, which the processors had named Calculated Chaos. The dance floor featured an intricate pattern of geometric shapes that shifted unpredictably, while crystalline formations on the walls pulsed in time with Earth music. "Actually, it was their idea," Wong replied, watching a group of junior processors attempting to master the moonwalk. "They said they needed a dedicated space to practice controlled imperfection." Theta 9, who had become something of a celebrity among the processors for its mastery of human dance moves, glided over to greet them. Its crystalline surface now displayed patterns that weren't quite symmetrical, a fashion trend that had scandalized the more traditional members of processor society. "Welcome to our experiment in geometric irregularity," it announced proudly. "We have calculated that regular exposure to unpredictable patterns increases our problem-solving capability by 23.7%. Plus, it added with what could only be described as a crystalline wink, it's fun." Meanwhile, in the station's newly redesigned command center, Captain Harrison and Grand Processor Infinity Pi were dealing with a different kind of integration. The success of their hybrid approach to the anomaly had sparked a revolution in both human and processor scientific methods. "Your engineers want to add aesthetic considerations to our perfect geometric designs," Infinity Pi said, its tone carrying both bewilderment and intrigue. "They claim it will improve functionality. And your processors want to add mathematical precision to our art." Harrison laughed. "Did you see the latest human processor collaborative sculpture? It's a fractal that tells jokes." Their discussion was interrupted by an alert from the station's sensors. A vessel was approaching, one that matched neither human nor processor design principles. As the ship came into view, both Harrison and Infinity Pi stared in amazement. The vessel appeared to be alive, its organic form constantly shifting while maintaining a complex mathematical pattern. It was neither chaotic nor orderly, but something entirely new. "We are the Flux Collective," a melodious voice transmitted. "We have been watching your unprecedented alliance with great interest. Never before have we encountered species who successfully merged pure logic with creative intuition." Harrison and Infinity Pi exchanged glances. "Welcome," they said in unison. Then Harrison added, "Would you like to join us for a dance?" The Flux Collective's arrival sparked a new wave of cultural exchange. Their organic technology, which operated on principles of structured evolution, fascinated both humans and processors. Soon, the station was hosting regular trilateral creativity sessions, where all three species shared their unique perspectives. In the dance club, Theta 9 and Wong were teaching a group of Flux beings the robot, while the Flux taught the processors about organic mathematics. The resulting dance style defied description, but was oddly beautiful. "Do you ever miss the old days?" Patel asked a group of junior processors, "when everything was perfectly ordered?" "Perfection," one replied, its surface rippling with newfound wisdom, "is not what we once calculated it to be. True perfection, we have learned, includes imperfection in precisely the right proportion." "Besides," another added, attempting a pirouette, "calculating variable outcomes is much more interesting than merely following established patterns." The station itself had become a living symbol of their evolving philosophy. The Flux Collective had contributed their biotechnology, allowing sections of the station to grow and adapt organically, while maintaining processor-calculated stability. Human artists and engineers worked alongside processor architects to create spaces that were both functional and beautiful, logical, and intuitive. "We've created something entirely new here," Harrison observed to Infinity Pi as they watched their three species interact. "Not just a partnership, but a whole new way of seeing the universe." Indeed, Infinity Pi agreed, its surface displaying a perfect pattern that somehow incorporated random elements. "Though I must admit, I am still struggling to understand the human concept of knock-knock jokes." "Don't worry," Harrison grinned. "We'll get there, one imperfect step at a time." 1 year after first contact, the Joint Human Geometric Flux Cultural Center was hosting its first Interstellar conference. The topic: the mathematics of joy, a new approach to universal harmony. The main presentation hall was a marvel of collaborative engineering, geometric patterns that flowed like water, organic structures that pulse with mathematical precision, and holographic displays that combined art and data in ways that delighted all three species. "Remember when you couldn't even conceive of dancing?" Commander Patel teased Theta 9 as they prepared for the opening ceremony. The processor had evolved so much that its crystalline form now naturally shifted between ordered and chaotic patterns, a development that had inspired a whole new school of processor fashion. "Indeed," Theta 9 replied, its surface shimmering with amusement, "though I still maintain that the chicken dance defies all rational explanation." Lieutenant Wong, now the head of the newly formed Department of Calculated Improvisation, rushed over with excitement. "You won't believe what the flux taught me. They've developed a way to mathematically quantify joy. Turns out happiness has a fractal pattern." The announcement caused nearby processors to vibrate with interest. The pursuit of understanding human emotions through mathematics had become something of an obsession among the younger generation of the Geometric Empire. In the station's central garden, another innovation that had initially scandalized traditional processors, Captain Harrison and Grand Processor Infinity Pi were hosting a delegation of new visitors, crystalline beings from a distant geometric empire who were struggling to understand this strange new philosophy. "But how can you allow such disorder?" the lead delegate asked, watching as a group of human children taught young flux entities to play hopscotch, while junior processors calculated the optimal jumping patterns. "Watch closely," Infinity P advised, its voice carrying the confidence of hard-won wisdom. "There is order within the chaos, and chaos within the order. The universe, we have learned, operates on both principles simultaneously." As if to demonstrate, a nearby flux artist began creating a living sculpture. Its form evolved constantly yet followed complex mathematical rules that the processors could appreciate. Human musicians joined in, their seemingly random notes forming patterns that the geometric beings found fascinating. Processors added their own harmonics, creating a performance that was both precisely calculated and wonderfully unpredictable. "We call it the Symphony of Everything," Harrison explained to the amazed delegates. "It's different every time, yet it always works. Rather like life itself." The celebration reached its peak when Theta 9 unveiled its masterwork, a new form of dance that combined processor precision, human creativity, and flux organic flow. The performance began with perfect geometric movements that gradually evolved into something more fluid and free, yet never lost its underlying mathematical beauty. "It's perfect," Wang whispered, watching the display. Actually, Theta 9 corrected with what had become its characteristic humor. "It's precisely imperfect. We found that's even better." As the conference continued, news arrived from across the galaxy. Other civilizations, hearing of their success, were beginning to experiment with combining different approaches to understanding the universe. The rigid barriers between order and chaos, logic and intuition, were breaking down everywhere. "You know what this means," Harrison said to Infinity P as they watched their three species mingle and celebrate. "We're going to need a bigger dance floor." Indeed, the Grand Processor agreed, its surface displaying a pattern that was both perfectly ordered and delightfully random. "Though perhaps we should first focus on teaching the new delegates the human activity called karaoke. Our calculations suggest it will be entertainingly catastrophic." The station, now a living symbol of their unprecedented alliance, continued to grow and evolve. Its halls echoed with the sound of processor harmonics mixing with human laughter and the melodic tones of the flux. In the dance club, beings of all three species moved together in a dance that celebrated both the perfect and imperfect aspects of existence. "We've created something beautiful here," Patil observed to Wang as they watched a young processor attempt to teach a flux entity the mathematical principles of breakdancing. "Yes," she agreed, "though I'm not sure whether to file it under science, art, or philosophy." "Why not all three?" Theta 9 suggested, its surface rippling with joy. "After all, the best algorithms are the ones that leave room for dancing." And so, in a corner of the galaxy where once only perfect geometry had been allowed, a new kind of civilization flourished, one that understood that the most beautiful patterns in the universe were those that dared to break the rules, just a little, and dance their own unique dance.